just as you have taught us. Grant to these commissioners and all of our elected leaders the wisdom and grace necessary for good leadership and good government. And in our community and all over our land, God, let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. All this we ask in the strong name of Jesus Christ, the risen Lord. Amen.
Face the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mr. Peterson.
Your first order of business is consideration of the minutes of your meeting held on Thursday, April the 18th.
Okay, commissioners,
Move for approval.
is there a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the minutes? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Next order of business is the presentation of a proclamation recognizing Johnson City Parks and Recreation 75th anniversary. Mr. Ellis and Mr. Hughes, Mr. Stahl are here. I think Mr. Ellis has been here for 50 of those 75 years.
You would know, you hired him.
That was good. That was real good.
42, but
Come on over this way just a little bit. Well, gentlemen, thank y'all for being here, but more than that, thank you for your leadership and everything that goes on in Parks and Recreation. I think we have one of the best park systems and all the programs that we offer for our young people and adults in Johnson City. It's a lot to be proud of. And I think the state and other organizations recognize that because we win an awful lot of awards for our programs. So thank you. So this is 75 years. Who was here then? Anybody here 75 years ago? Mr. Penzola, he was there. Right? He's got the gray hair.
Pretty close.
So it's a great honor to be able to read this proclamation. Whereas on May 18th, 1944, the Johnson City Parks and Recreation Department was officially organized to meet increasing citizen needs for recreational facilities and activities and to enhance the quality of life. And whereas city funds and individual business and civic donations totaling $12,600, by the way, we cut your budget back to that for this year. We've just been reviewing it. And would serve as the department's first annual budget, a number which has grown to nearly $6 million. And whereas an area around the former Memorial Stadium, known as Keystone Fields, became the department's first base of operations, and Howard Johnson was named the department's first director. Youth programs typically were staged at school facilities, and skating and boxing were among the top draws in warehouses along Legion Street. And whereas in 1947, Johnson's challenge to a local plant superintendent during a city league basketball game resulted in the construction of Legion Street Recreation Center. The department now operates 24 parks, a multi-generational community center, and 4 recreation centers, as well as a growing list of indoor and outdoor recreation offerings, including 20 miles of hiking and walking trails, football and baseball stadiums, and other special use facilities on more than 1,200 acres. And whereas Johnson City Parks and Recreation remains committed to enhancing community well-being, providing quality recreation opportunities, preserving natural habitats, and moving forward with innovation to increase quality of life in Johnson City. Now therefore I, Jenny L. Brock, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, do hereby proclaim May 18th, 2019 as Parks and Recreation's 75th anniversary, and encourage all citizens to celebrate the benefits of these services by participating in their choice of recreational activities. So I'm very, very pleased to be able to present this to you, Mr. Ellis, and if you might want to share with our citizens all the celebration that's going to go on.
Well, I would like to share what it was like in 1944, but I would have to talk to Phil first. But On a serious note, we're very excited to provide the quality services and programs that we provide. And as the mayor said, a lot of those are award-winning programs thanks to the tremendous staff that we have. Saturday, September the 18th, from noon until 2 p.m., the public's invited to attend our Candyland Carnival, which will be held at Memorial Park Community Center. We have tons of activities for all the children as well as adults. So please come out. It's free to the public.
Say a few words there.
Well, we actually didn't have golf involved in that, but now golf is one of the derivatives of our Parks and Recreation, and I'm proud to be a recipient of the programming out there, and we're also endeavoring in bicycling and a lot of other unique opportunities on our large acreage. So, Charlie?
I just want to say it's an honor to be a part of the Park and Recreation Board. I've been the city manager's representative for 13 years, and certainly a special time during this 75th anniversary. So we appreciate this proclamation and the support of the city commission and city manager over the years. Thank you.
I might add one thing, if my math is correct. It took 75 years for Johnson City to start a Parks and Recreation department, since we're celebrating our 150th anniversary. So anyway, we will have a great celebration for all the people, and of course, every day, our parks are filled with our children and our citizens here, and it's just a great thing. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, your next order of business is the presentation of a proclamation recognizing maternal mental health awareness.
Well, again, it's a great honor to be able to read this proclamation tonight on a very, very important subject, and thank you for coming in tonight. We're reading a proclamation for maternal mental health. Whereas maternal mental health is an issue of great concern to new moms, families, physicians, and communities. And whereas many women are not adequately informed, screened, or treated for perinatal mood or anxiety disorders due to the misunderstanding of the disorder or lack of knowledge of where to receive care. And whereas perinatal mood and anxiety disorders affect up to 1 in 5 new or expectant mothers and their families, it is believed to be one of the most common complications during and after pregnancy. And whereas heightened awareness and increased education of the incident of PMAD is critical for our community, and whereas these disorders can affect women and teenage girls regardless of age, race, or income levels, contributing significantly to adverse development and behavioral outcomes and attachment disorders in young children. And whereas perinatal mood and anxiety disorders are highly treatable with therapeutic interventions, community-based supportive services, and medication, and whereas community support systems help facilitate a successful recovery. Now, therefore, I, Jenny L. Bragg, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, do hereby proclaim the month of May of 2019 as Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month. And I know you've done so much to bring this to the attention in our community, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself and say a few words about what's getting ready to happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this, and I appreciate it so much. I'm Christina Delaney. I'm a registered nurse in the community. I wear a few hats. I'm the co-founder of Appalachian Perinatal Mental Health Alliance and the founder of Cherished Mom. And we will be celebrating this proclamation on May 18th during the inaugural gala for Cherished Mom. And our mission, it will be educating and raising awareness for perinatal mood disorders. And our primary project will be delivering free self-care boxes to new moms after they view a series of educational videos surrounding perinatal mental health. So it's very exciting, and I think it's about time that we have this available for moms. And we appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much. And here's the proclamation. Hopefully, we'll see you on the 18th. Very good. Thank you.
Mayor, your next item of business is to consider a temporary occasion license for the Downtown Johnson City Foundation to serve beer at Founders After 5 on multiple dates, those dates being May the 10th, May 17th, June 14, June 21, and September 27th, 2019. The appropriate reviews have been made, finding no disqualifying factors, and our recommendation would be for your approval of this request for these temporary occasion license.
Hey, Commissioners, oh, we have Ms. Cantler here. Do you want to go ahead and explain this, Ms. Cantler?
Yes, so Founders After Five is our, the way that we kick off the weekends in Johnson City during the spring and summer. Friday nights, we will have actually 12 Founders After Five, but the foundation is just doing the nonprofit pouring for 5 of those weeks.
Okay, and we have all the dates listed in this one.
That's just for the foundation. We have
Okay.
other nonprofit partners that will be coming forward.
the other six.
Yes,
Okay.
there'll
I
be
got you.
others. So
That was-
several, yeah, there's more.
Morning Rotary.
Morning Rotary, yes. So there's multiple nonprofits that will be pouring. This will be just the 5 that the Downtown Foundation will do.
Very good. Commissioners, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further questions? Or
They'll come individually, I suppose, and they are aware that they'll need to do that?
Yes, yes. Reagan has walked them through the application process.
Sounds great.
So the first one's May 10th then?
May 10th, next Friday night.
Oh, very
Yes,
good.
yes. We have, one of the things that Reagan Streetman, our event and marketing manager, has done is really tried to get music that is either, that's more regional this year. Part of the 150th celebration is to really highlight our local and regional music. And so 95% of the acts are within a 45-minute to an hour drive. But then we do have a few others that we're bringing from outside the region.
I know a lot of people are looking forward to the music series starting this year,
Yes,
so.
yes,
I
we're
think we have a
looking forward to
motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Thank you.
Your next order of business is consideration of street closures, the first being a request from the Atlantic Ale House for an event to be held on Saturday, May the 18th. This is a closure of a portion of McClure Street from 2 p.m. until 11 p.m. As per the site plan attached to your document. We would recommend approval of this request.
I see the applicant is here. I think we know you, but go ahead and state your name and address, please.
Jacob Greed, 218 West Holston.
Very good. Commissioners?
Move for approval.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Just want to say that you always overachieve when it comes to the map of your area. You draw the trees in and everything. That's just, it's
That
really
is a very
pretty.
nice map.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I wish you all could see the map.
It's very nice. And you just had an event, which was very successful. Yeah, we were all down in the park together that last Saturday night, so, all right.
Say a
Any
little
other
bit about-
questions?
So this event is,
It's part of the, so Sorba is doing their annual summit, mountain summit here in Johnson City, and so as part of that, we're their closing event, and they're gonna have a award ceremony, and there'll probably be a bunch of mountain bikers and bikes hanging out.
wonderful.
Just a quick question, Mr. Peterson. McClure Street, is it used for any other purpose at all? I mean, I know we have to have right of
Come
way.
down here and see us.
That has all of the utilities. It's also our access to get into service and work on the stormwater facilities there adjacent to it. And it's the access for emergency services to Atlantic Ale, and it's also used, I think, by the adjoining leather factory. So there are a number of people that use it.
Okay.
We've looked several times about just abandoning that right of way, but there's multiple purposes for it. I think it would end up being problematic to some of the other property owners there.
I was just wondering if it's to be used for some of these kind of things, is there a need to go through this every single time? So we'll leave that
We
up to
could,
advice of the staff, though.
Let's look into that and see if we can change that.
Okay,
Okay?
all right. All right.
Sort of short form or
No other
something.
discussion, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun? Yes. Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. You want to tell us about the event a little bit? I know you mentioned one thing, but go ahead and give us.
Yeah, we're just closing down the street for Sorba's annual mountain summit. So a bunch of mountain bikers from the region and South Off-Road Mountain Bike Association is going to come, and they'll learn trail building techniques, and they'll look at our new project up at Tannery Knives, and they'll ride a bunch of new bikes and things like that. And we're their end of the summit award ceremony.
So the Sorba Summit is kind of a big deal coming here to Johnson City, isn't it? And so people will be coming in from,
All over from Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama.
is it mainly the southeast or? Okay,
Yes.
so it's a regional type thing.
Regional.
Is there an estimate on how many?
Jerry and Mark and those guys would probably know better than I, but
Sure.
I would say it could bring in upwards of 1,000 mountain bikers.
Very good. Well, y'all should have a good time down there then. Did we vote on that? Yes?
did.
No. Yes, we did vote on it. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, good luck. Hopefully we'll see you down there.
Your next item of business is street closure request from the Johnson City Morning Rotary Foundation. This is a request for the Johnson City Omnium to be held on Sunday, June the 2nd. The street closure request is for portions of various streets from 6 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. for the purpose of the road race. There will be, the applicant does not intend to utilize a stage or other temporary structures, and beer will not be allowed. We have made the review of the request, and the recommendation is for approval.
Mr. Dudley, welcome to the meeting. If you will formally state your name and
Right.
address, we would appreciate it for the record.
Renaud Dubberly, 1712 Jackson Terrace, Johnson City, Tennessee. The area, and especially Johnson City, has been very supportive of bicycle racing. I started events in the early 80s. The outcomes have been multiple, one of which is by having this racing formats. We now have 2 colleges with scholarship racing teams, one of which, Milligan, has been the national champions the last couple of years and has also won the Southeastern Region Championship at their race in Elizabethton a few weeks ago. We've also had some other impacts that kind of caught me by surprise when I was at the race in Elizabethton. Is one of their new students is Manuela Escobar from Colombia, South America, and she came and attended my race for 2 years, this particular race for 2 years, and liked the area so much that she moved here and is going to college at Milligan. So we've brought people from South America to live here in our environment due to being able to experience the tremendous natural resources that we have in the area. The race this year is using the exact same format, but we have changed sponsoring organizations. The Johnson City Morning Rotary Foundation is a sponsoring organization this year, and we've increased the Pro-Am women's prize purse by almost 100%, and the South American team will be back, who placed first and second last year, and we expect that whole field to increase, as well as the other competitions that we have. It is a tremendous spectator event, free in our community, and we certainly hope that we can turn out our local people to see these athletes and their competition. As a lot of people have said, it's NASCAR on 2 wheels over there at Fountain Square, which is the title of the criterium this year downtown, is Fountain Square Criterium. We have Jim Hughes, who is just here. He's our medical professional that is standing at that corner, because we've never had a race without crashes at that corner. So it is very competitive, and the winner in 2017, who crashed in the dry but didn't crash in the rain, was grinning from ear to ear in the photograph I have of him, because he won the race even though he has raspberries down the whole side. So these are sports. These are from amateur level to professionals, and they really like. I've been in Anniston, Alabama, and Athens last weekend to some big races down there, talking to hundreds of racers that are coming up this area. And we are well recognized for the quality of our venue and the quality of our organization. And so we're recognized all over the Southeast as one of the best places to race bicycles. So we appreciate your support, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Well, it looks like you're going to have a whole network of new volunteers, right, Dr. Fowler?
Volunteering for a
They've been
couple of years.
supporting it, as,
Yeah.
as a member of that particular organization, they've been supporting it for the last 6 or 7 years.
How many cyclists will be coming in and
We-
then estimate how many family members
We,
come
we
with?
bring in, one of the nice things about registering online, which this has done for many, many years, is that I have the email address of all of our participants. And so when we send out a survey, we get really good information back. We get about a 22% return, so our survey data is pretty accurate. I have to get 60% new riders every year, but we still always get about 300 to 400 riders, and they bring 1.2 additional people with them, including one of our racers from Memphis that brings his family up here and says he likes it so much that, they come back and stay at the Carnegie and enjoy this. It's the demographics of this racing group is from 9 years old to 99 years old, with an average income 5 years ago of $100,000. So we're not talking about a cheap sport, or we're not talking about a low-income group. So we bring them in here, we show them our area, and we obviously are having some of them move here on account of that. So I appreciate your support.
Make sure their families bring their bikes and get up to Tannery Knobs and out at Wing Deer Park and
As soon as we
Quincy
get
Trail.
that open.
We hope soon. Okay. Commissioners? Make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, your next item, which is a street closure request from the Public Art Committee, has been pulled from this agenda. We'll bring that back up at a later date.
Okay.
The next item for action is consideration of the consent agenda.
Mr. Peterson, do we need to modify the agenda, or do we need to vote to,
Yes, we
Take
do
that
have
off,
one
thank
item
you.
we would like for you to add to the.
no, I mean on the art thing, do we need to take it off the agenda?
No, they
Okay.
just asked for it to be pulled.
Okay,
I mean,
all right, all right.
The next item for consideration is the consent agenda.
Commissioners, are there any items you would like pulled?
Hey, go ahead.
Well, I'll start down at this end. Commissioner Calhoun?
No, thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
I'd like to pull A 2 and 3 just to briefly discuss the relationship between the city, the contractor, and TDOT with respect to those contracts.
Commissioner Hunter?
That was what I was going to
Okay.
ask.
Well, then let him do it. I don't have anything.
Commissioner Fowler? Okay. And I'm going to pull A4 and that's it, A4.
Bill, you have
A2.
all the answers.
That's right, he's the man.
Lucky you.
So you want to have a specific question on that?
Just describe what's happening there. That's one of the questions that I'll get from citizens with some regularity as to who's mowing what and why certain areas of a state highway appear to be mowed more frequently than other areas. So just answer that question as a general matter.
We have multiple mowing contracts that are on, generally speaking, a 10-day cycle, so that we can keep Johnson City as a whole mowed every 10 days or so. We used to do it ourselves, but there was no way that we could circulate around the city. By the time we got around the city, you'd have part of it growing pretty high, so we contracted. We have inspectors who review every mowing cycle by every contractor, and if they see things that are wrong, we don't pay them. If they don't trim, or if they don't pick up the litter, they don't get paid. So we have 2 inspectors that are overseeing the mowing issues. The interstate mowing is of a higher frequency than what the state of Tennessee would do. State of Tennessee generally does 6 sequences. So if you were to be on the 381 bypass between Kingsport Highway and Bristol Highway, that's mowed by the state. And you can see how grown up that gets, so they have to almost use bush hogs to cut it. That's going to change. We're going to take that over effective July 1st, which is reflected in the annual state route maintenance contract, and there was a little bit more money. Our frequency is much greater, and we try to keep it in that 10-day range so that we can keep Johnson City looking at. Then we have the litter and mowing of the interstate. That's very unusual in the state. We started that about 30 years ago and have kept it up since. So that's worked out really well. And again, that is the mowing frequency and the litter collection. So we review those.
Are there, I think I read in here, where we have to supplement this budget somewhat from what the state reimburses us to keep it at the level that we desire?
Slightly, yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Thank you. And the last one was just on this final project on change order, right? If you would go, I know we've gone through it several times, but just one more.
What this is that when we bid a project, we bid it by units, and the units are estimated by the original designer. So when we get to the end, we obviously aren't going to hit the asphalt quantities. There are a lot of different quantity. So some of them are higher, some of them are lower, and this is really a reflection of any adjustments made to the quantities. And so we do a final change order in order to reflect all of those adjustments. If we made any field adjustments that we didn't run through, those are included, but those are very minor in the overall operation.
But 150 of that's coming out of the liquidated damages, and
Right,
so-
there were 2 penalty clauses in this contract. One was associated with liquidated damages. They were 3 months over. That was I think that one amounted to, or 5 months over, that one amounted to $150,000. And then there was, because they were over, we had to pay CSX, I believe. We had to pay them. They have to be on site at all times. And so there was a clause in the contract that if they did go over, that they would pay for the added expense. And I think that added expense was about $138,000. And that's reflected in the final payment.
So our 51,000 is mainly quantities adjustments.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on any of these items? All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further comments? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Peterson?
Right, your next order of business is consideration of ordinances and resolutions. The first being resolution of 519 Claude Simmons Road annexation. A resolution to annex certain property located within the 10th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, adjoining the present corporate boundaries of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to incorporate the same within the corporate boundaries of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee. Said property being known as the Naduku annexation to zone said property R2 low-density residential as described herein, and to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee accordingly, being a part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, is ready for your consideration on first reading. I will remind you, we have to do annexations by resolution, and we assign zoning by ordinance. Hassan, please.
Hassan.
Mayor Commissioners, before you is a request to annex 46.6 acres piece of property that currently adjoins Alexander Grove subdivision into the Johnson City corporate limits. This property is currently vacant. It meets all legal requirements for annexation. It's been requested by the property owner, Dr. Valentine Nduku, and it is also in the planning region. The developer intends to construct a 17 lots single-family residential subdivision on this piece of property, which will be connected to the Alexander Grove subdivision, and also there will be an exit straight onto Claude Simmons Road. This section of Claude Simmons Road is already in the city. As part of this project, the developer also dedicated, he will construct from Claude Simmons Road right up to this proposed road as part of this subdivision. And he has dedicated a 60 feet right of way for possible future connection of this road down to Indian Ridge Road to solve a problem that the city school system has been having out there. Staff has made an estimate of the financial impact for this annexation. Initial net fund is estimated to be $35,488, and estimated recurring fund that would jump up to $75,053. The difference essentially comes from materials agreement for water and sewer, provision of water and sewer services. Because if the city commission approves, then we will reimburse him the cost for installing water and sewer in this subdivision. The Planning Commission at its meeting on April 9, 2019 recommended approval of the annexation.
Commissioners, any questions to staff before we move forward?
I'll move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion. How about a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Okay. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Your next item for consideration is ordinance number 4688-19. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, being part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, entitled an ordinance to adopt a code of laws and ordinances for the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to repeal all laws and ordinances in conflict therewith, and amendatory thereof by assigning a R2 low-density residential to certain property within the 10th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, known as the Nduku annexation, is ready for your consideration on first reading.
This is an ordinance to assign the R2 low-density residential district zoning designation to this piece of property you just voted on. As earlier indicated, the developer intends to construct 17 single-family residential lots on this piece of property. The future land use map designates this property for residential development, which ties with what he proposes to construct in this area. The property is surrounded entirely in the city side of it, by the R2 zoning district. So it's the reason of the Planning Commission that simply extending this R2 into this property will make this property in conformity with the surrounding zoning district. What he has proposed in terms of his development plan will meet the requirements, the zoning requirements for an R2 zoning district. The lots have to be a minimum of 15,000 square feet. Each of the lot meets that requirement. The Planning Commission recommends the assignment of the R2 zoning district to this property.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mayor, I might just make a comment that in this zoning, there are two parcels that it's pretty clear are not part of the rezoning or the annexation. And there was considerable discussion at the Planning Commission about the issue of, I think that the terms are Swiss cheese annexation and donut hole annexation to where there's nothing you can do about that. Those property owners are not requesting to be part of the annexation. Just clarification on why that stands out that way.
Are there homes on those properties, existing homes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so, okay. All right. And there will be right-of-way on the west end of this property that in the future, if the city wants to put a road in from Claude Simmons all the way over to Indian Ridge, we would have access.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's a real plus for the city. Yeah. All right, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
The next order of business is consideration of the plan of services for 519 Claude Simmons Road. In your packet is a breakdown of the plan of services. As you can see with review, all city services will be extended to that property upon annexation. And there is a financial analysis in your packet as well. Asong, you want to give us the details on it, please, sir? You good? Okay.
You already did.
And I would point out that this analysis does show that revenues will exceed expenditures in terms of the annexation.
So the elementary school district would be Woodland with Indian Trail.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Water sewer, of course, is already running down through there as we have other developments. Okay. Any other comments on plan of services? Okay, commissioners, is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Next is a resolution for 278 and 280 South Pickens Bridge Road for annexation. A resolution to annex certain property located within the 11th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, adjoining the present corporate boundaries of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to incorporate the same within the corporate boundaries of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, said property being known as the Cooper annexation. To zone said property R4 medium-density residential as described herein, and to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee accordingly, being a part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, is ready for your consideration on first reading.
Mayor Commissioners, before you is a request by the property owner to annex 2 lots into the city, one at 278 South Pickens Bridge Road and the other at 280 South Pickens Bridge Road. These are adjoining pieces of properties. They are owned by the same person. Each of the lots currently has an multi-family building on it, has 4 units on each of these buildings. And the developer intends to construct in this vacant section a replica of what he already has on site. There will be another 4 to 8 units. That's what he intends to do upon annexation of this property into the city limits. Staff has analyzed these based on the proposed plan that he has. The estimated net revenue initially will be $13,655, and that will be the recurring revenue. Services are already available on this side. It's already on city's water, city sewer. There will not be any cost incurred by the city in extending those utilities to this piece of property. The Planning Commission at its meeting on April 9 recommended approval.
On annexations, remind me, do we have neighborhood meetings on these?
No, ma'am. We send out letters and
Okay.
we post signs on the property.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you. All right, commissioners,
Move to approve.
Second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? Y'all were busy at the Planning
We
Commission,
work.
yeah.
We work hard,
Yeah.
right, Song? We do work hard.
Ms.
Double their
Jennings?
pay.
Yeah. There you go.
Commissioner
Double
Calhoun?
zero.
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
The next item is ordinance 4689-19. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, being part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, entitled an ordinance to adopt a code of laws and ordinances for the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to repeal all laws and ordinances in conflict therewith and amendatory thereof by assigning a R4 medium density zoning designation to certain property within the 11th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, known as the Cooper Annexation. Ready for your consideration on first reading.
I think we heard your explanation in the first. Do y'all need any more on the R4 zoning? I think we're probably good. All right.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Next is consideration of the plan of services for the Cooper annexation. The information is in your packet. As you can see, existing water and sewer services are available. All other city services will be extended to the property upon the date of the annexation being effective. The financial analysis is also included in there with the revenues exceeding expenditures by $13,000.
Any questions to Sung on the plan of services?
Move for approval.
And is there a second? Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. Thank you, Sung.
Next item of business is consideration of ordinance number 4687-19 on second reading. An ordinance to abandon existing water and sewer easements and to accept the dedication of new easements upon the terms and conditions contained herein, and repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, ready for your consideration on second reading. As a reminder, this is a piece of property where we have existing easements that are not in the location where the sewer line extension will take place. The property owner has agreed to abandon this one and allow us new easements in the location where they're needed for no charge.
Very good. So no public input on this? Okay.
Required.
All right, Commissioners, is there a
Move for
motion?
approval.
Second. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes.
The next order of business is consider approval of a sales and purchase agreement for the city-owned properties on East Main Street known as the Hands-On Buildings, subject to the approval and execution of a development agreement within 30 days of the execution of this document. I believe you all had a thorough review of this Monday evening. The offer price is $600,000 for all four buildings, and this will be a mixed-use development containing retail as well as residential use. The contract does specify a 90-day due diligence period beginning the date of the approval of the agreement, with a closing required no later than 45 days after the termination of the due diligence period. We feel like this is a good proposal from local developers with a proven track record, who not only have a proven track record, but a sincere interest in the betterment and the future development of our community, and staff would recommend approval of the agreement as proposed.
I would like to say just a couple of things.
Is that subject to a development agreement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Which is
Sorry.
being great. That's no problem. This offer has been brought to us with a concept plan. We have the 5 buildings on the east end of Johnson City, which has had very little kind of traffic because development hasn't been occurring up on that end of town. There are really kind of 3 reasons why I look at this as a very favorable offer to the city. First and foremost, these properties have been sitting there for quite a long time, not even on the tax roll. So the minute we close on these properties, they will go back on the tax rolls, and the citizens will be collecting those taxes. The second thing, and while the offer to some, and I've gotten a few calls on this, may seem low, these buildings have been sitting there for a long time. I can certainly recall back in the 60s when I worked down there, they were vibrant, healthy buildings. It was the epicenter of everything in Johnson City, but they've been sitting there for a long time. And so one of the things about what I personally feel is we can discount the price on these is to help the developer mitigate some of the risk in just redeveloping these properties. I know we had one offer that was going to tear down one of the buildings completely because of the condition that it's in and what it would take to restore it. So the offer we have on the table now is to save that building, to redevelop it. So I'm very favorable to kind of help in that process. And then just the third thing is the concept plan that's been brought forward. I think it's going to revitalize this end of downtown Johnson City that's going to bring so much energy down there. A number of the buildings would have residential upstairs, and so it's going to bring a lot of foot traffic down in that part of town. And we always know that when you have residential, you have other businesses that will build up around it to support those residents. And then on the downstairs, some kind of either retail, restaurants, or entertainment. So just the plan itself that's been brought to us is very, very exciting. And so I'm going to support this offer, and I feel like it, in a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we're not even going to recognize downtown Johnson City because of this project. Anybody else?
From my personal experience in the industry that I work in banking, and having seen many of the properties in downtown Johnson City be redeveloped, to address the concerns of some of the value of the property at the proposed price, it's actually quite fair and allows a developer or a builder to invest in the property and do it correctly, and give it all that it needs. And we'll see the dividends pay on that now that it's on the tax rolls. And the value of that property after the renovation will be substantially more.
Mr. Abraham, would you like to kind of talk about your project? And I think we have a rendering right here. I don't know if that can get up so it can be seen on TV or not.
Let me say my name and address.
Sure.
Okay, Shane Abraham, 400 Heatherview Drive. I wasn't prepared to do so, but I appreciate the opportunity, appreciate the comments. I couldn't agree more. I think this is an opportunity to take some old buildings that are, everyone would agree, underutilized and continue to keep downtown moving forward. We need all the synergy we can get down there, and we're happy to make a commitment to that block, to that part of downtown, and see what we can do with that. So we appreciate the opportunity.
And you're going to be making a significant investment in those
Significant,
buildings.
yeah. These are projects of passion. Yeah, so.
We appreciate that. So, I don't know, Mr. Peterson, is there any way we could get that so at least
Mr. Stahl,
it
would
could
you
be
ask?
seen
act as my-
by the public?
Vanna White.
Yes, Vanna White, please.
And the name of your project is the Henry on Main, recognizing and celebrating our founder of Johnson City, Henry Johnson. So, can you see that?
Henry Winkler.
Henry Winkler, or Henry Winkler, yeah.
We were recognizing the ponds.
So it's a very nice looking project.
Thank you
so
very much.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioners, is there a motion?
I would make a motion to approve. My thoughts on it, the real value of this project is not in the real estate. The value of the project is in the redevelopment. When you look at redeveloping these old buildings, you have to balance the fact that there's lots of risk and unknown cost associated with old buildings that don't exist when you have a green piece of undeveloped land. And so if we don't want to simply see an abandoned city center and development continuing to move to the outskirts of town, we have to find ways to level that scale so that it becomes viable to redevelop. And sometimes we do that by TIF, and sometimes we can do that in this instance where we own it. In the case of a TIF, you're delaying the return. And so in this particular instance, as the mayor has already said, when we close on this transaction, they go from being in the hands of the city who don't we don't pay taxes on land we own, to being taxed. And then as they make a sizable investment in the redevelopment and move people in and move businesses in, that revenue improves, and we realize the benefit of that revenue much more quickly than if we were relying on a TIF or another instrument. So I think it's a good plan and one that serves the citizens' interests well.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Anything else to comment on?
I think this is a project of passion. I think, I liked your term on that because, I think you could probably build apartments and businesses and places in other parts of the city, but to go downtown and do this, I think it's a next step. And we need that. We need that energy. So thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun?
Yes.
Commissioner Fallon?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise?
Yes.
Mayor Brock?
Yes. Thank you so much. And Ms. Castillo, thank you for bringing the offer to us.
Your next order of business is consideration of a request for an easement on city-owned right-of-way along West Oakland Avenue. In your package, you have a request from Dr. Sam Lewis to acquire this easement. He's in the process of purchasing the property housing what is now known as Cafe Pacifica at the intersection of Denny Mill Road and West Oakland. During the course of his due diligence, it was discovered by survey that part of the existing parking lot for that business encroached into our right-of-way. In order to close the transaction and get clear title, he needs an easement to allow that parking to remain in its present location. That parking is required parking by our zoning ordinance to meet the parking for a restaurant. We have, staff has reviewed this and determined that the granting of the easement does not interfere with any existing or currently proposed public improvements. There is a water line under a portion of the parking area, but should not present any problems with allowing the existing parking to continue as it's been there for some time. We're currently working on getting the easement document prepared. As far as, I think, engineering told me they had the survey done. They were working on the easement document now. But in order to facilitate his closing, which needs to occur rather quickly, we are asking you to approve this in concept tonight with the understanding that the actual easement documents will come back before you at the May 16th meeting. That easement document will show the location of the utilities, and it will also include language that will allow the parking to continue but not be expanded or improved upon. It will give us the right to come in and make any needed repairs or upgrades on that water line and indemnify us from any damages as a result of loss of business or loss of parking should we have to do any work on that water line. I feel very comfortable that we can protect all of our interest and accommodate Mr. Lewis's need to have that parking remain within the right-of-way. Some of you may remember years ago, we had talked about an upgrade to West Oakland Avenue between Mountain View and Hanover. In reviewing the preliminary construction plans for that, the roadway actually shifts away from this location, so we can still do the road improvement plans without negatively impacting anything that's in place out there. So we would recommend your approval, recognizing the actual document will be back before you in 2 weeks.
I rode out there, and the parking places in question have been there for years and years and years, so.
I move for approval.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just for clarification, so we're approving granting an easement, but then in 2 weeks, we're going to have easement documents. So what are we doing tonight that we wouldn't be doing then?
What you're doing tonight is giving Dr. Lewis the assurance that
That
you're
he's
going
gonna
to,
get the
that he's
easement.
going to
Okay.
get it, so he can go ahead and get his closing done.
Okay. No,
And I assume this will work, Shannon?
Yes.
Okay.
well, I don't know, maybe.
And he's going to redevelop that property, is that correct? Is that the purpose?
I'm going to pass that to Ms. Castillo.
Okay, so we'll have a new business going in out. New restaurant out there, okay, very nice. Okay, so it's a lovely setting, for sure. Okay. Did you make a motion? You did.
And it was second.
And
We just
there's
need
a
to vote
second.
on it.
Okay, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun.
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Commissioners, at this time, I would like for you to add to your agenda an item that will be consideration of a job retention and growth grant for Crown Labs.
All right, Commissioners, do I have a motion to add this to the agenda?
I'll make a motion. Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Calhoun.
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter.
Yes.
Commissioner Wise. or
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise. Mayor Brock.
Yes. All right, Mr. Peterson, if you would inform us the details of this, please?
Thank you, Commissioners. This is consideration of a job retention and growth grant for Crown Labs. Crown Laboratories came to Johnson City in 2001 and has consistently grown their business in terms of product, manufacture and distribution, and jobs created. They have continually been a stellar corporate citizen with excellent community support, making significant donations in support of Science Hill High School, ETSU. They're a consistent supporter of the Turkey Trot. They've always been very active in the community, both with their employees and with their investments. They currently own and occupy about 188,000 square feet over on Leif Cox Drive, and they currently use a supplier network in our region that totals 42 companies. They manufacture a variety of pharma-type products and distribute those worldwide. They currently have 203 jobs with an annual payroll of approximately $12 million. What they are looking to do is an expansion of their manufacturing and distribution operations by adding in new product lines, additional square footage for manufacturing, and office space, and a retrofitting of their current facility. This expansion would also include the growth of their corporate headquarters with the potential to relocate their office within the city to a larger location. This expansion that they're contemplating would involve the addition of 216 new jobs over 5 years. This would be in addition to the 200 existing jobs, and a $27 million new capital investment made over 5 years. The company has been in a high growth mode over the last 18 months, making numerous acquisitions and product expansions, and have bought facilities throughout the country where these products are manufactured and distributed from. This is a desire to bring most of those firms to Johnson City and create those new jobs and centralize their operations. What we are proposing is to help them meet their financial needs to create these new jobs by proposing to you the approval of a job retention and growth grant. What this would involve would be an up to a $450,000 grant that would go to the IDB, who would then in turn make the grant to Crown Labs. Crown Labs would be required to make an annual performance report that would report all new job creation numbers and increased payroll amounts on an annual basis. And at the end of 5 years, there will be a reconciliation to determine that whether or not they have met their projected metrics of creating 216 new jobs with an increase in annual payroll of $17 million. If those metrics are met, there would be no repayment expected of the grant. If those metrics are not met, repayment from Crown to the IDB would be required at the rate of $2,084 for each job under the 216 number. That number was arrived at by taking 450,000 and dividing it by 216. Thus, the worth of every job is $2,084. So one piece of this would be the grant. We do have measures in place to ensure that the criteria are being met. They will be monitored on an annual basis at the end of the calendar year. And at the end of the 5-year period, if the criteria of the grant are not made, then there's a financial repayment back to the IDB for the balance of what was granted and what was not met. In addition to that, there would be a property tax abatement of real and equipment, on real property and equipment. It would be up to 100% over 10 years, beginning when the construction is completed on their new manufacturing facility expansion. On this pilot, the existing property taxes being paid today would continue to be paid, so there would be no loss of existing revenue. The abatement would only be on the improvements for a time period up to 10 years. What we're asking you to approve this evening would be to approve a letter of commitment containing the terms as I have explained, and authorize the mayor to sign the letter of commitment to forward to Crown Labs for their consideration and approval. I would add that this is a wonderful opportunity to reinvest into an existing business that Mr. Bedard has pretty much made a homegrown business right here in Johnson City, along with other local investors. And it's a great opportunity to not only retain 200 jobs, but to also grow 200 new jobs with substantial capital investment into our community. And I've asked Mr. Bedard if he'd like to come up and speak and give everyone a little background on his history of coming here and starting the business and growing it, and kind of share his dream with us. So, Mr. Bedard, if you'd come up, please, sir.
Thank you, Pete. Commissioners, Mayor. You did a great job explaining what Crown has accomplished over a very short period of time. A little background, I moved here from San Diego, California in November of 2000. And we had an idea, and that idea was to take a product that we were distributing from Australia called Blue Lizard and move that manufacturing from Sydney, Australia to Johnson City, Tennessee, which I think at some point maybe I'm confused, but wasn't there a sister city with Australia somewhere along the lines, or am I?
There is now.
There is now? I mean, there may have been. I feel like the Aussies have come to Johnson City. But we started that dream with 4 employees here and leasing a small space where we're currently located at 349 Leif Cox. Shortly after we moved here with those 4 employees and located in the best manufacturing facility, that facility was going to be offshored and shut down, and we had the option to either move out or acquire the facility. And having just qualified it as an FDA manufacturing site, we didn't really have a choice there, although we weren't ready to make that kind of investment in the community or in the company. Fast forward to 18 months ago, we now are a business that, as Mr. Peterson stated, is about 203 local employees, but 400 globally. We have small commercial operations in Dallas, in New York. We have a distribution center in Belfast, Ireland, and a commercial operation in London. And we have entered the business beyond sunscreen into aesthetic medicine, into pharmaceuticals and branded and generics. In the beauty space with an acquisition of a UK-based company, and a aesthetic medicine company called Bellis Medical in Dallas. We now have the opportunity as well to go out and take the manufacturing of 6 products that we acquired from GSK, one that was just announced yesterday, a legacy product called Carry Lotion. These products are manufactured in 3 different parts of North America, one in Florida, one in Missouri, and one just outside of Toronto. This expansion that we're excited to kick off and partner with the community will bring a substantial amount of that manufacturing here. We'll have expanded production lines, and we'll do our distribution, which is currently done in Indianapolis, Indiana. For those products that we acquired, we'll bring that here. Tennessee is a beautiful space for distribution, as the people in Memphis know with FedEx, but also Johnson City and the community here is a great location to reach a majority of the customers and the population. So we're going to use the community support that you're generously considering today to invest back into this community, to add a significant number of jobs, to retain those jobs, and to continue to be a good corporate partner.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bedard. Any questions of Mr. Bedard before he sits down, and then we'll have a discussion? Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioners, just a couple of thoughts that I have. You know, we are all sitting here looking at projections of growth in this region, and they're pretty startling, to say the least. You know, we're not growing like Nashville or Knoxville or Chattanooga, and so we have challenges here to attract and retain businesses. We often provide incentives to try to attract companies to come into our area, but our homegrown companies, when they look at expansion like this, and I know from hearing a little bit more today about Mr. Bedard's business plan, they own other companies throughout the U.S. that could take this business. You could center this almost anywhere, and we want it here. We want it to stay here. The investment back into the community, I know with what we are reading here, with an additional 100,000 square feet of manufacturing space and more employees, is exactly what we need in this community. And so I think I'm going to support this request. I think it is, our neighbors and family members and friends in this community work at Crown Laboratories. They're good-paying jobs, and so we want to keep them right here. We particularly want to keep a corporate headquarters here, because then other companies can look that we've got a vibrant corporate headquarters here and see this is a good place. It's a low-cost structure. It's affordable to be here. And so I would encourage Mr. Bedard to think about inviting his supply chain to come and locate here even more than it is now. So I think it can have some real spin-offs. So I'm going to be in favor of this, and just wanted to make those comments. Anyone else?
I'd make a couple of comments. One, this meets two of the things that we've been talking about for a long time, and that's retention and growth. And it does both of those things. And then just going back a little bit further, Crown Labs obviously has not only been a good corporate partner, they've been a good community partner, at least from my observation. And even goes back way farther than, and one of the colleagues of Mr. Bedard was one of my colleagues in pharmacy school, and Don Kilday. And I think he would be very pleased. Don passed away, but he would be very pleased to know the growth and the opportunity that the work that a lot of people have done has resulted in a company of this kind and this quality not only being in Johnson City, but growing in Johnson City. And I think this just fits in what our responsibility is to invest in not only bringing new businesses here, but supporting the businesses that are here. This does both of those things. And I'm very supportive of this.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, the mayor made a comment about growth projections, and if you heard that and weren't listening closely, you might have thought there were projections of growth. What the growth projections are is very flat, and so it's really no growth projection. And so when we're looking at these kinds of opportunities, particularly for businesses that have come to be and grow and thrive here, it's essential if we want our children and grandchildren to finish school and have prospects for employment in the Tri-Cities, we need to turn the tide. And this is an opportunity to turn that tide, and it's an important one to take for that reason, because right now the growth projections aren't growth projections.
Commissioners, is there a motion?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I
Yes.
could, just to clarify, what we need you to do tonight is to make a motion and to approve a letter of commitment containing the terms as I have explained, and authorize the mayor to sign the letter of commitment. The actual contracts between the city and the IDB will come back before you again for approval in their final form. So this is approval of a letter of commitment that Mr. Bedard can take to his board of directors. And when we get the actual documents completed, we'll bring those back for you for your final review and approval. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to make the motion of staff's recommendation. And with that, I think we all take seriously our position up here as trustees of taxpayers' funds and want to be good stewards. And with that, we need to invest wisely, whether it's in education, infrastructure, or in business. And that means we must look for the best returns on those investments. And I think this is a great idea. Protecting and growing our industries should be a public priority to further expand and diversify our economy. And like Dr. Calhoun, Commissioner Calhoun mentioned, recruiting and retaining businesses that are growing and that are adding jobs has an inherent positive multiplier effect, which is something that we as a community need to support and show a strong desire for. We need to invest heavily in our community and those that are helping to make it better. And Mr. Bedard and Crown have been both at the corporate and the personal level all in and have, as we say, gone all out for Johnson City. And so I'll make the motion to approve the recommendation.
Well said. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Also, one final comment is I feel like the appropriate safeguards are in place with this arrangement to protect our citizens, as Commissioner Hunter talked about. I'd second that motion.
Mayor, one important thing I did forget to explain to you. This money is existing in your economic development reserve account. This investment into our community will have no impact on your upcoming fiscal year budget in terms of being able to fund other things. That fund is set up specifically for economic development. So the funding is available, and it will not negatively impact anything else that we will be doing.
Good, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's what it's there for.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good.
And I will make one comment, just that when I ran for office, one of the things that I wanted to be sure of was to get return on investment for the money that we are in charge of from the citizens of our community. And I think this is one of those ways that we can do that, especially with the safeguards that are set up. So.
Very good. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other questions we need answered? All right, Ms. Jennings.
Commissioner Calhoun.
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler.
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wise.
Yes.
Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is an extremely important reinvestment into our community that I feel like will make great return on investment, as Commissioner Fowler pointed out. That brings us to the conclusion of your scheduled agenda, and
I think since you have your manager's report on the first meeting, we're going to do our committee updates, if anybody has anything to report on what's going on.
And an exercise in extemporaneous speaking.
Commissioner Calhoun, we know you've been busy with the Planning Commission. Is there anything else you?
No, the planning commission meets next week. Is that right, Asan? Week from next, so I'm sure we'll have much more to
Bring us more annexation.
Right, but one thing I will say that I'm going to be bringing back to the commission is an approach to take a real hard look at our responsibilities as city commissioners relative to the vaccination situation that's going on, not across just the U.S., but across the entire globe. And just to make sure that we're doing all we can to protect our children. So I'll be coming back with some recommendations.
And you had mentioned to me earlier that we're seeing a number of measles cases here in East Tennessee, right?
East Tennessee, I think we're up to 5 now.
Okay.
And a lot of other countries are in a lot worse shape than we are, and we'll be just like those countries if we don't make sure we take care of this.
This is a disease that was eradicated.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
In the 60s and 50s.
Vice Mayor Wise.
they have quarantined an entire cruise ship, I saw on the news this
Really?
morning, because of the measles outbreak.
Oh, wow.
And they won't let them come shore anywhere.
They have a university out in California that's, yeah.
It's in New York with a whole group of people, so.
What if we got quarantined in here? Then?
God help us.
I had the measles.
Too.
Vice Mayor?
JCDA met, they're still working on pursuit of the John Sevier Center. And I believe at last report, they had essentially worked out the transfer of the HAP contract. I don't know if we've gotten final documentation of that effect, but at the last meeting, it appeared to be on track for that. So slow but steady progress.
Commissioner?
You may delve into it a little bit farther, but being on the Johnson City Public Library, where they're going to be hosting a sculpture unveiling and
Pollinator sculpture, yeah.
garden proclamation by yourself tomorrow at 5.
Yes.
In the front lawn of the library.
Please come.
So
Wear
yeah,
your bee
invite
suits.
everybody.
Wear your bee suits.
We'll get Steve Barnett to put his bee suit back on.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Commissioner Fowler,
I think
CBB.
I went
anything
over
on
all
that?
the CBB things last time when
Okay.
we met, and have another meeting coming up very soon, so I'll bring you more.
I'll just, the one thing I'll bring to you, and I think you have it on your calendars, on May 7th, we will be cutting the ribbon on the first solar farm or solar community for Bright Ridge. It will be on May 7th at 2:30. It's down in Telford. The address is on your calendars if you can make it. There are, I think it's about 40-some acres, and there are 44,000 solar arrays there. And it produces 5 megawatts, which is a lot. I think that would keep electricity to about 600 houses on an ongoing basis. But solar is becoming a very viable renewable energy. And so we're going to really look at how this one's going to work out, and then see about others in the community at a later time. So that's all good. This past weekend was just chock full of activities, and we had Henry Johnson's birthday party down in King Commons, and what a great park that is. It just worked out really well. The fun thing about it, we had a number of our citizens, young and old, who came dressed in period costumes. Commissioner Calhoun was there. You got to see that.
Wasn't in costume.
He was not in costume. He was in,
Well, I normally
in
look.
golf costumes, yeah. But we had a group of about 7 couples who actually came and danced in the amphitheater there to music played by Ed Snotterly, music from the time, and it was really cute. So we had a good time. And somehow, Mr. Peterson, we found a train that took train rides around the park. I think Parks and Rec need to get one. I mean, that was a hit. We could use it a lot of ways. Even adults rode the train. So we could rent it out, I mean, do all sorts of things, so it was good.
In one of Howard Johnson's trains.
Well, we rented it from Greenville, I think, so, anyway. But it was a great weekend. We kicked off the farmer's market, new season. It's the sesquicentennial market this year, 150 years of farming. And so, been great turnout, and we're doing a lot more activities down at the farmer's market now. So, good place to go on Saturday mornings with your family, with the kids. That's on my list. So if anything else, thank you all so much, and we're adjourned.